Hello, everyone. My name is Liam, and welcome back to part 2 of the Crease Analysis Goalie Draft Rankings. This video details the top 5 in depth, building off the 10 and honorable mentions that preceded it. For information regarding the thought process behind these rankings and how to interpret the cards, please refer to the first video. Anyways, let's not waste any time and get into it with number 5. If you were to tell me I was going to be talking about Ryerson Leenders in my draft rankings video this year, I would have had to take my meds because obviously I was hearing delusional voices in my head. But here we are, and a D plus 2 goalie in the OHL who was actually drafted to an NHL team is sitting at my fifth in my rankings. It sounds crazy because he was just let go for free by Buffalo, but they have 6 goalies. Most of them are pretty good or are decent prospects, and between just their NHL and AHL teams. So now we are left with a guy who we quite literally placed 20th on our U23 goalie rankings at EP, which is no small feat. Goalie prospects are really good right now. Leenders' game could be summed up as a chained up Rottweiler hopped up on cocaine. This guy moves with so much intensity and purpose that it is frightening. This is someone who will never take a play off physically. He plays every shot like his family is in jeopardy, and making a save is the only way to save them. Yet, it isn't a detriment to him. He can still set his feet each time and plays well in control. His feet are very quick and explosive. He makes tons of little adjustments to keep himself on angle. He can extend quite well. He's very flexible. He's extremely agile in that he can just completely alter the course of his body in about any position and not lose any power or control in doing so. This really reflects in his cognition, which is just absurd. Few goalies I've seen have the processing speed that this guy has. All he needs is just a glimpse of the puck, and bam, his eyes are on it, and his body is already moving. As he could be in the process of transitioning back to his post, head in the process of turning a full 180 degrees, where he is already physically and mentally behind the ultra quick pass that's going to the slot. Oh, and he has found the puck and is already in position. The same thing with his hands, where there are shots through traffic that there is literally zero chance he saw release, yet he is somehow able to move his hands to impossible lengths to make outrageous saves after only viewing it as it is halfway on its trajectory. He's a grade A improviser. He excels in chaotic situations as he can always figure out a way to at least get some part of his body in front of the puck. But as I said, he's still pretty controlled. This isn't someone who is always sliding erratically or throwing himself with no regard for human life. His edges are precise and he keeps his body in check most of the time. I do think, however, his efficiency of movement could be better. I'm not a huge fan of his stance and his limb control during big pushes, but when he gets to a spot, he can put everything where it needs to be. And despite moving with the ferocity of the cocaine bear, he manages to keep plays relatively mundane and boring, like he's dictating the play. The concern with Leenders is that while he has extremely quick processing and good tracking, sometimes his brain seemingly turns off. He has his moments where all of a sudden he will get beaten cleanly from afar to the hands, just completely missing the track entirely. Or he will misread a play and execute a pretty bad decision. These are frequent enough that they usually happen once a game, but that's typically all. It's an ironic paradox where he's extremely consistent from a game to game basis. I mean, this is someone who has literally put up a 909 and two 910 seasons in the OHL as one of its best goalies each year, rarely deviating from a game save percentage of 880 to 920. Yet his skill set is a bit more inconsistent. He isn't the type of goalie to completely implode because of his weaknesses, but he is also the guy who will let in a weak one in any given game despite overall playing well. This may prevent him from truly being a game-stealing X factor, but he has the skills and the consistent track record to have legit 1A or even lower tier starter upside if he is allowed to develop properly. My second favorite goalie of this class, Vladimir Proskurin, is perhaps the most underrated goalie on the planet. At 6'1" and playing out of one of the worst MHL programs, Atlant Misici, that lacks a KHL affiliate and has produced just one NHL draft pick, the cards are stacked against him, and understandably. Very few have had the kahunas to rank Proskurin, let alone as a second round pick. But what gives me the confidence that I'm not hearing voices in my head is that I'm not the only one at Elite Prospects who feels just as strongly about this kid. The pure raw talent that Proskurin has cannot be denied. He looks like the poster child for the Russian game, just oozing skating and athleticism. He explodes with unreal power and can extend outrageously far while sinking deep into his hips to get a perfect seal toe to toe with incredible flexibility. What's more, though, is that he can somehow access an edge while he is in this position. It is genuinely absurd. He can somehow recover as if nothing has happened, or have full upper body control while making these extensions, or is easily able to contort his body to project his glove onto the puck or lean his chest over the top of his pad. His butterfly is extremely wide thanks to great internal hip rotation that allows him to take up a lot of the bottom of the net. He's extremely agile. He can go back the other way on a dime. His feet are uber quick, his edges are precise, and he can recover and pop up from any position with extreme power and control. His hands are also really quick. His stance is very strong, and he has impressive control and efficiency of his movement when he isn't doing a spinneroonie to make a backdoor save. Critics within the EP goalie room often mention, though, that he is excessively aggressive in his positioning and owing it to poor play reading, which will severely limit his path to the NHL given his stature and situation. But I disagree with this sentiment, and I actually think he may be a secret genius. The assessment that he is excessively aggressive is sort of true. He is often at the top of the crease or well beyond, but even when passing options are available. But it's one thing if he defaulted to this, starting and finishing out beyond his crease. But in actuality, his positioning often takes the form of in and out, where he will be much more normal, having expected depth, taking quicker, deeper routes, but then he pounces out when he believes a shot to be likely. Though concern has been raised that he's excessively aggressive in his positioning and owing it to poor play reading, and that this will severely limit his path to the NHL given his stature and situation. But I disagree with this sentiment, and I actually think he may be a secret genius. The assessment that he is excessively aggressive is pretty true. He is often at the top of the crease or even well beyond it, even when passing options are available. But it's one thing if he defaulted to this, starting and finishing out beyond the crease. But in actuality, his positioning is often taking the form of in and out, where he will be much more normal, having expected depth, taking quicker, deeper routes, but then pounces out when he believes a shot to be likely. I also think he's always reading the play because he's constantly scanning, always tracking the puck with quick eyes, and his reactions are lightning quick. It's just that his decisions where he will end up over aggressive in certain situations, which causes the concern because he's so exposed to lateral play. But the thing is that I think everything he does is very intentional because he knows it is giving him the best chance at winning right now. The NHL is a far cry from, and then even more from, a similar style to the North American game. It lacks deception, pace, and a significant east to west game. Misishi is terrible, so they end up giving up lots of slot chances, which leads Proskurin to take so much depth, making filling the net a priority. In doing so, the brains of the MHL shooters explode. They lack the mental capacity to capitalize on the passing options that he exposes himself to. And when by some miracle they do make those passes, Proskurin has the physical talents to beat most of them at this level. Really, there is no incentive for Proskurin to play any differently as it stands. But frankly, it is a style that simply will not translate to the NHL. My theory, however, is that if he is put in a better situation on at least a semi-competent team facing competent shooters, he will have all the tools available to make the necessary changes. Focus less on huge over-the-top extensions and rely more on his processing, skating, and honestly, secretly strong technical game to rein that positioning in and make much more efficient saves. If a team is willing to give him that opportunity, I think he has genuine high-quality starter upside. I just beg a team is as crazy as I am because I don't even know if he gets drafted. But if I'm a GM, I'm picking him early second round. No questions asked. The most personally polarizing goalie in this class happens to be Dmitri Borchev, who generally appears to be thought of as one of the consensus top goalies this year. He was someone who mid-season and even in April, albeit a bit reluctantly, was ranked in the first round by me and was something that I was really all in on. But then came the time for me to write his film room for our EP, and I had the misfortune of watching him in an extreme depth. My opinion soured, and it has taken all my strength not to overreact too hard. Once thought of as infallible earlier in the year with a tantalizing skill set, January rolled around where the lug nuts weren't retorqued and the wheels fell off. Undoubtedly the best skater in the class, Borchev's edges would easily match most NHL goalies as is. He has an edge in any situation with full power capabilities and can control himself to a crazy degree. The skating in the crease is so fluid, especially in the butterfly, and when he rotates his body from a butterfly a full 270 degrees to integrate into an RVH. He's powerful and precise. At his best, any depth and angle he desires is possible thanks to his feet. His athleticism is a bit unique, however. Outside of explosiveness, he isn't seeping with raw athletic talent like Proskurin or Casey. In fact, a question if Borchev is all that flexible as he rarely ever extends, and I've never seen him get into a full splits. His athleticism lies in the control of his body, his mobility, and his agility. He's not someone who sells out because he really never has to. As I said, he rarely extends, but when he does, he can bring every part back into his body. He's exceptional at maximizing the net he occupies when moving laterally, and his control over his limbs allows him to have more than a fighting chance on most plays. The control of his body made him quite technical early on. His butterfly is excellent, extremely wide, and his glove is very quick, where he consistently made well-controlled saves in front of him. He could control rebounds with a lot of intent, had really strong tracking, solid angling, and depth control, and was always reacting very quickly to plays, showing some deep processing. All in all, it looked like Borchev was a no-brainer first rounder, a prospect that was teetering on the edges of being in the same tier as Ravensburgen from the year prior. But then it all began to fall apart. Borchev's positioning became aggressive and seemingly random. He missed his angles a very concerning amount, would play several feet out of his crease with clear passing options available, showing that he wasn't reading the situations and he failed to adjust. He grew very impatient, biting early on many plays, allowing players to walk or pass around him pretty easily. He grew tunnel vision where he would lock his body down in a low, wide stance, limiting his lateral mobility that even someone with his physical talent couldn't get out of. This stance became the norm for his game, which exposed an incredible degree of net, diminishing his advantage of being 6'3". He would get beaten to the mid and high blocker frequently, often from a clear line of sight and far out, suggesting he wasn't tracking shots all that well. Likely suffering an injury as he missed a stretch of time and ultimately only having a measly 24 games, I can only hope that this second half goalie is a product of that and it's only temporary. It really messes up my projection for him as my gut is telling me to tank his ranking because of so many glaring issues that will keep him from ever making the NHL. But largely, these issues weren't there or at least nearly as bad early on. And realistically, he will no doubt become an elite KHL starter at minimum. So he will have the chance to fix his mistakes. I will choose to be optimistic and bet on the upside he showed early in the year in hopes he can build off that foundation and maybe become a starter. But if he continues on that trend he's on, what? Perhaps one of my most insane takes ever is having Roberto Henriquez number 2 on my goalie rankings, where he is virtually unmentioned outside of, well, us at EP in the scouting hemisphere. It seems crazy to consider a re-entry in this position, but one must consider, just like the other re-entries on my list, where Henriquez is with his development. And if I were to do a re-ranking of goalies from the 2025 class, just based on where they are at currently, Henriquez is coming in no less than 4 in what I would consider a much better class at the top end. Frankly, robbed of the USHL Goaltender of the Year award, Henriquez's development is genuinely mind-blowing, as he was hardly serviceable in the USHL last year and was just pure raw physical talent and cognitive flashes with little regard for actual goaltending. Now, I have a hard time pinpointing genuine concerning weaknesses because he is just so unbelievably good. He was always a physical monster. He's one of the best skaters in the class, outrageously powerful, quick, agile, but also very precise. He's a mad scientist who teleports around the crease from any position, whether he is low and wide, where he should have no mobility, in the butterfly, on his feet, or even if he was hanging in the air if he really wanted to. His flexibility, mobility, and core strength are very high end too. He can get into flex and extended positions without any issues, but he really controls himself extremely well, never selling out on plays, as he can hold himself upright to prepare himself for the next move and cover more net. He's always future proofing every play, yet doing everything he's capable of to make a save, which is a wonderful balance. Though the biggest intrigues to me are his incredible efficiency and cognitive game. Everything Henriquez does is textbook. His movements are so controlled, so efficient, it is hard to believe he's the same goalie that he was last year. There is absolutely no noise. His eyes lead first, hands and torso follow suit. He takes a deep route to travel faster, then pops out at the last second to challenge precisely on his angle with his feet set. He's a lightning quick tracker, anticipates play extremely well with positional adjustments and scanning, and reacts extremely quickly to play, even on crazy bounces and quick passes. What I really like though is how well he processes through screens too. His reactions never diminishes, he anticipates play at the same rate, and somehow always has vision through traffic, which will be a crucial skill at the NHL level. Still, he has issues with his stance, which is often too low and wide, with very tight hands that really counteract the fact that his hands are genuinely very good. Because they're so tight, he can still be prone to getting beaten high into the far reaches. His wide flared butterfly can also lead to propensity for unintentional rebound control, and he tends to slide instead of traveling on his feet, though not overly common. And he can transition up to his feet faster than you can say Roberto Leonardo Henriquez, mitigating that issue. Honestly, these flaws are rather minor, and I don't affect his projection much. He has incredible potential and is very similar skill wise and stylistically to that of Adam Guyon, a top 15 U23 goalie prospect, except Henriquez is outpacing Guyon in every way, managing to put all the skills together in his D+1, producing a great full season that Guyon has just figured out how to do in his D+4. I'd be fiending to draft Henriquez in the early second round, as he has the potential to be a high quality NHL starter and a pretty good chance at that. I hope there is some team that views him like I do, because discourse around him has been scarce and I have no idea where he could go. But man, this guy is really legit. Tobias Trejbal is a major high riser this year, and he didn't really start out as someone I thought could end up at the top of the class at the end of the year. But Trejbal proved to be extremely consistent throughout the year, winning the USHL Goalie Tender of the Year award and making notable improvements to skating, power, framing, and post play. Quite frankly, Trejbal is one of the easiest NHL projections I've seen from a draft year goalie. It should come as little surprise that he sits atop the rankings. He just looks like the exact representation of a modern NHL goalie. His game is built through excellent technique, which is top of the class. He's a picture-perfect crafted stance with appropriate knee and hip bend and ideally placed, well-disciplined hands. Put that on a 6'4" frame, and he's taking up so much net the entire time, whether he's on his feet or in a butterfly, of which he can flare his legs outward to look even wider. But his big strength is how he is exceedingly calm throughout the play. It would take a national tragedy to phase Trejbal in the crease. His hands are glued to their position during movement, his upper body is completely one, and he is always very smooth in everything he does. His hands are very quick, his glove being better than his blocker. He meets pucks in front of him and is very intentional with his rebounds. His post seals are also very excellent, especially in the RVH. To further exemplify his high-end technique, his positioning is phenomenal. His style is based on efficiency, so he's always taking deeper and quicker routes. But he doesn't necessarily just sit deep in his crease when he's finishing out his movement, as you might expect. He actually does a really good job at getting to the top of the crease to maximize his depth, while in turn rarely ever being caught for challenging too aggressively. These aspects are really what gives him the highest floor in this class as a surefire NHLer, as he is already so refined. But what gives him legit quality starter potential is his physical profile. Trejbal is a great skater with power, quickness, and phenomenal precision. He controls himself extremely well. He's pretty agile on changes of direction, and he does well getting edges in a variety of situations. His athleticism is a lot more interesting, though. He can break into the splits without a second thought, but he still has impressive control and mobility while in them. He doesn't sell out, has the strength and mobility to keep his body upright, filling out that net, and he can reel his body in seamlessly to prepare himself for the next move after extending. Though, while an extremely intriguing and highly projectable prospect, he is not without his faults. My biggest concern is how his calmness can be a double edged sword. There are a lot of games where he just isn't pushing as hard as he can, ironically focusing too much on being controlled and efficient instead of getting there as quickly as possible. He sort of lacks intensity, which reminds me a lot of Anthony Stolarz, who is very similar skill wise, where I think an extra gear could go a long way. This lack in intensity can spill into sort of mental lapses where he isn't always reacting as fast as he has shown to be capable of and will actually opt for a slide pretty often instead of getting there on his feet, which his talents fully allow. I'm not overly concerned. A lot of goalies in the NHL get away with this style of play, and generally he has really strong tracking, some anticipatory habits with scanning and positional adjustments, and fine reactions a lot of the time. When he does show to be a little more intense, you can really see the full package come together, and that's what his peak should really look like. Seeing this combination of technical refinement at this young of an age, paired with his size and physical talents, he is by far the best chance at being an NHLer in this class and has a decently high potential as someone who can be a reliable, consistent quality starter and deserves to get picked very early in the second round because of it.